The Miami Dolphins 53-man roster has officially been announced, or I should say it's the initial 53-man roster because we will see a lot of changes probably in the next 48 hours and beyond. We'll break down position group by position group, who were the most notable cuts, who is on this depth chart. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. And before we get into the full breakdown of the Dolphins roster, we have daily content here at the channel. So if you are just finding us for the first time, subscribe. And we're also doing a daily sub battle against the Bills breakdown and the scumbag himself, Tyler Smith, here at Chat Sports. So subscribe for daily Dolphins content, but also take down the Bills. No surprises at quarterback. This should not come as any surprise, as it's going to be Tua Tagovailoa, Zach Wilson, and Quinn Ewers for the Dolphins this season. Ewers is likely going to be inactive for the Dolphins every week, but as a healthy inactive and be that emergency 3 quarterback. But this is a fun group this year. I'm excited to watch them. Hopefully we only see Tua this year, but at least they gave us entertainment in the preseason. No shocks at running back either. Mike Boone and Aaron Shamplin were cut, paving the way for Devon Achane, Jaylen Wright, and Ollie Gordon to be your 3 lead backs. With Mike McDaniel saying earlier this week that Jaylen Wright is going to miss the season opener on September 7th against the Colts, I do believe Miami will ultimately add another running back to the roster at some point in the next 2 weeks before that opener against the Colts, because you can't go into the first game of the year with only 2 healthy running backs. So keep an eye on that, but initial ones kept are these 3, plus Alec Ingold as that fullback. The Dolphins do indeed keep 6 wide receivers, the core 4 pictured on your screen, the 2 depth pieces, Dee Eskridge and Tahj Washington. It certainly started to head that way at the end of camp when Tahj Washington just continued to make plays day after day after day. Unfortunately, Theo Wease Jr. and Andrew Armstrong were both cut from this Dolphins group. 2 UDFAs I really liked out of Missouri and Arkansas respectively, but let's hope that they clear waivers and come back to the Dolphins practice squad on Wednesday afternoon. Who was the most surprising cut for the Miami Dolphins? Was it a Theo Wease Jr. or was it a corner or a defensive end, which we'll get to here in just 1 second? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section right now. Moving over to tight end, we got Darren Waller, Julian Hill, and Tanner Conner. There was some possibility of Hayden Rucci making the 53-man roster. He was on this group for a while. He was one of the last cuts. Pharaoh Brown obviously got released on Monday, a player that was signed to be a starter caliber guy for this team. This tight end room is just not good at all. Another position group that I would expect Miami to add to over the next 48 hours. But Tanner Conner, Julian Hill, and Darren Waller are your initial 3. Lot to break down on offensive line. There are 8 guys total. Now you see 10 names because Andrew Meyer, the backup center, who Mike McDaniel labeled as one of the best offensive linemen they had all camp long, he is on IR. Now it is not the season-ending IR. It is the 2 slots you are given to kind of put on IR, allow them not to count against the 53-man roster, but they are eligible to return after week 4. Meyer is one of them. Liam Eichenberg was on PUP to start training camp. He remains on the PUP list, so he is eligible to return after week 4 and also does not count against the 53-man roster. But there are not many surprises here. On my final Dolphins offensive line projection, on Monday or Tuesday morning, I had them keeping just 8 with Keon Smith, Daniel Brunskill, and Larry Borum being the depth pieces behind the starting 5. That is ultimately the case. I do anticipate Miami potentially adding more offensive line depth throughout the next couple of days, especially on waivers, but the initial 8 are set. We got the defense in a second, but shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show, the daily fantasy sports app and platform I play every single day. And with roster cutdown day here, we turn our attention to the regular season, where we are almost there, folks. But college football is already here, and I'm excited for football season, and I'm excited to play on Prize Picks. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money today. You can get in on the action in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Which players going off, which ones aren't. Take your sports opinions and hot takes and turn them into money this season. And I've got an entry in for week 1 of college football. Less than Haynes King passing yards, less than Arch Manning passing touchdowns, and then more than Deshaun Bishop 61.5 rushing yards, 3-player entry there, but you can customize the way you play over at PrizePicks. Just download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Links in the description and comments of today's video. PrizePicks, run your game. Let's take a look at the defensive line depth chart now, where there's a lot to unravel here. We'll start with the interior defensive line. I projected Miami keep 6 interior defensive linemen. They do, in fact, keep 6 defensive linemen. Zeke Biggers and Matthew Butler, the 2 players I projected to make this 53-man as the 5th and 6th guys, ultimately do make this group. Matt Dickerson, Alex Huntley, both cut. Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips, Benito Jones, and Zach Sealer round out the top 4 here. A lot of depth on this defensive line, which I really like. And no surprise, in the edge department, you have the quartet of Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb, and Matthew Judon with Jalen Phillips. Now, the one surprise is that the 5th edge rusher / outside linebacker is Cameron Good. So the Dolphins end up cutting Derrick McLendon, Quinton Bell, Grayson Murphy, a lot of solid edge rushers that I did not anticipate being cut. I always knew they were going to keep either 5 or 6, but if they kept 5, I would have thought Grayson Murphy was the 5th over Cameron Good, and if they kept 6th, I had Quinton Bell as the other guy. So Good surpassing Bell. Kamara, too, by the way. Mo Kamara was released. So a lot of surprising cuts at edge. No surprises at inside linebacker. The core 4 are Cap Tyrell Dodson, Jordan Brooks, KJ Britt, and Willie Gay Jr., which means Channing Tindall. I'll see you later. Cornerback is an interesting one. The news came in this morning that the Dolphins and Rasul Douglas agreed to a 1-year, $3 million contract. Now, Miami kept 6 corners on their initial 53-man roster. You see 7 names on your screen right now. Duck, Jack Jones, and Marshall Jr., your likely starters. But Miami did technically keep second-year UDFA Isaiah Johnson, the former corner from Syracuse. Cam Smith is still on this 53-man roster, as well as Ethan Bonner. But I'll make the note right now, Bonner, dealing with an injury that's going to keep him out for multiple weeks, could be placed on IR tomorrow, which would keep him out for the first 4 games at minimum, which would pave a roster spot to be open for Rasul Douglas. I would anticipate either Cam Smith or Ethan Bonner being placed on IR/cut to make room for Douglas tomorrow afternoon. 6 safeties were kept as well. A shocker here. And here's the biggest surprise. Ashton Davis was not put on IR right now. Now, that is subject to change. Like I mentioned with Bonner, he could ultimately be placed on IR tomorrow, miss the first 4 games, and then use that roster spot to add another position. But Minkah Fitzpatrick, Elijah Campbell, Dante Trader Jr., Ifeatu Melifonwu, and how about the former Rhode Island Ram, Jordan Colbert, making the 53-man roster? He makes it over the likes of Patrick McMorris, the 6th rounder from 2024, gets cut. Shout out to Colbert. He had a very strong preseason. Special teams, Jake Bailey and Joe Cardona are the 2 that are kept on the 53-man. Now, I have Jason Sanders on here, but he is on IR. He was, like Andrew Meyer, that other spot that is placed on IR, doesn't count across the 53-man, which is why Miami was able to keep 6 safeties and 6 corners initially. But Sanders is absolutely going to miss the first 4 games at minimum. The kicker that is most likely to replace him is Riley Patterson. I had that on my Twitter today, which is another reason why you go follow me at Nic_Rohloff. Once that made is official, we will have a breakdown on Patterson as a kicker. They brought in Patterson, Eddie Pinheiro, Zane Gonzalez, and Greg Joseph for a workout earlier today. All right, there's the initial Dolphins 53-man roster. Grade it for me, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section on how this team is looking for the 25-26 season. I kind of mentioned some cuts as we went along in this video, but I just wanted to rehash them. The most notable cuts, 3 of them happened at edge for me. Grayson Murphy, Mo Kamara, and Quinton Bell. I know a lot of us like Derrick McLendon, myself included, but I would have probably kept Murphy, Bell, and Kamara over McLendon. I would have also kept Murphy and Quinton Bell over Cameron Good. So Good making it over Murphy and Bell shocked me. And I know Good has special teams value, but so does Quinton Bell. That one was a little bit of a head scratcher to me. But Theo Wease Jr. released, Kendall Sheffield released. He was put as the CB2 on this unofficial depth chart. We obviously know Mike Hilton was released early Monday, and then Channing Tindall and Patrick Morris both being released. The Tindall experiment in Miami is finally over, but he could be brought back to the practice squad tomorrow. That'll do it for this edition of Dolphins Today. We will have a video out in the next 12 hours regarding potential waiver wire targets for Miami on who the Dolphins could try to claim/sign. So be on the lookout for that video. Also follow me on Twitter because every piece of Dolphins news, every piece of Dolphins roster moves that happen, we have you covered before we make a video here on the channel. So if you want wall-to-wall coverage on Miami Dolphins football, follow me at Nic_Rohloff.